listening to the questionnaire.
Say that again.
You're listening to the questionnaire.
I've just started. Right here, for your ears, for your eyes.
The questionnaire.
Get your Comic on.
Poke it out, poke it out, poke it out, poke it out.
I get to the scene a little after 4 a.m. Yeah? You know, sometimes some people come here real late because, you know, some people are international, but this is the questionnaire. I am the unknown factor, and it's not that late for me, man, you know, but as far as 4 a.m. concerned, I'm thinking about like 45 minutes. Yeah, that's what time it's going to be for Vladimir Popov. How you doing, man, over there? Real late.
Hey man, not bad. Early in the morning. If I were a fisherman, I would go preparing to go on a fishing, but I'm not, so I'm just gonna chill on internet. And Jay,
you know,
you're perfectly normal.
You know, I was tortured.
Perfectly normal.
Wait, look though, because this has to be brought up, man. We had Joe Donahue on recently with Dave, man, and we were chatting this and that, right? And he's really into horror films, right? Like that's his thing. And the way he was describing horror films, and like he was describing them with like an emotion and a story and this and that, like a depth a lot of people would ever really look at horror films, right? So I was like, have you ever seen a Serbian film? He said no, and I was like, look, Joe, you need to go watch that so me and you can have a discussion based on the fact that you said that it's based on that film was made because the filmmaker was thinking about the way it's based on the way the Serbian government treats their people, right? So I wanted to ask him his perspective as a horror fan about that film, knowing that about the director, going into it, watching that. And then Dave was like, should I go watch it? I was like, no, Dave, don't do that to yourself, Dave. Don't go watch that movie. Don't do it. No one needs to go watch that movie. Joe, would you do me a favor and go watch a Serbian film so we can go chat about it? And it was hilarious, and that's all I'm saying.
Have you seen it?
I do. Dude, we've had that whole discussion. Vlad, what are you talking about?
You brought it up again. Why did you bring it
well,
up? I mean,
because I was messing with Joe about it. Because it was, dude. Look, I swear, I need to. I'll send you it, and I'll be like, oh, well, it's out now.
It's out by the movie. I don't want to see it again ever.
But no. I don't mean a Serbian film, bro. I mean the bit between Joe and Dave and myself. Now, mind you, I can't send you that right now, but at the time of you guys all out there watching this, you can go back and fully check that out because it will be out. It's just not out yet now because I had some video editing properties and things happen. But I know a gentleman who's fully aware. You know, sometimes life just kicks you when you're down. We're going to get into him, one of his cohorts, but before we introduce a gentleman that's never been on the questionnaire before, let's bring in one that, I don't know, he's technically in spirit, the mighty, uncouth Mike Rooth. He's always here. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So glad to be back.
Y'all are always here in spirit, Mike. You know, like right there, right in the back. Just always, right? You know, and man, it's true. I don't know how long that's been there, and I'm not gonna go look because
it's about 1.5 years.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. Yep.
Oh, that's wild. That's wild. But I'll tell you what. In that's been here 1.5 years. Questionnaires been running a little over 2 years, and in that, we have had so many great guests on. So many. You can go check out Vlad's original quest. You can check out Mike's original quest. You can check out every time they've both been on the show, which is
even Jay's original quest. Yeah, we did that too.
Hey, you gotta pay. Look, you gotta pay me $2 and get on the Patreon for that because I am not putting. We got a little too much into the hip hop side of things on that. If you want to hear the hip hop side of things from me, there's bits of that where I talk to guests, and then there is where Vlad questioned me, and him and Scott are plotting for whenever I decide to end season 2. I know you and Scott are plotting something. I know. You discussed it. That's why I'm never ending season 2. It's going to be the never-ending quest, all right? That's
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you see that, right? But my point is, man, within all of that, within those however many quests there are, I don't know, man. There's still so many talented individuals that we have not had the opportunity to talk to. And we're going to get to one of them today, yeah, and Danny Harell. I still wanted to just add a D, man, just because of what she said earlier. But I was like, I can't intentionally screw up a name. I screw up enough unintentionally as it is.
Yeah, well, you got to leave something for the bloopers, right?
Danny?
Yes.
You did catch I just gave you an intro, right?
Yeah.
Did I?
Hey, Danny.
Mine
How's
is
it
very
going?
good.
He's like, what was that?
Welcome to
It's
the
going
show officially now. Your
Yeah.
past introductions, Jay,
Yeah.
so we can roll.
Now we're gonna mess with you, man. Because like I said, right off the bat, I gave you a little crap about the pre-show questionnaire, right? So right off the bat, again, on the beginning of the show, because I don't know if I was recording that bit, so you guys might not be able to see it on the before and after the quest. But I'm going to give you a little bit more crap, Danny, right off the bat about your pre-show questionnaire. And Mike, you totally didn't get this question, because there's now actually 3 different questionnaires that I put out. So
I have heard, yeah.
yeah, man. Hey, man. Trying to spice it up a little proper over here. You know what I mean? Know me? Right? So dude, really? The spike, the bat with a spike in it from Stranger Things, right? For a zombie apocalypse. Danny, that is a terrible idea.
I'm not going to make it that long anyway, so.
So you make it to where your bat gets stuck in a zombie's head and the other 2 zombies
That's a
get
cheerful
eat
way
it.
to start
Like,
a podcast.
You were the first person that ever got that question. As far as in reference to zombie weapons what weapon you would choose during the zombie apocalypse, and just Dan.
What is the weapon? What is the weapon?
But a bat with a spike through it, Vlad, that's a terrible weapon for a like I'm sorry. Look, like a morning star.
Depending how you like toss the bat.
All it's got to
How
do
long is the spike? How many spikes?
No, all it's got to do is get stuck once. This is why Negan's was better, because it was wrapped in barbed wire. Therefore, you didn't have the probability of it getting stuck or wedged somewhere. It would always just strike, right? I'm sorry, Danny. I got to call you on your apocalypse weapon, and you're right, dude. You definitely wouldn't last long with that one. Like, I give you like 3 minutes tops, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to be trying, really. You know. I'm not going to live like that.
You ain't got no kids, do you?
Sure I do. They'd probably be gone already as well. We're not really the survivalist type.
Started off on a depressing note, why don't you?
It's all, easy existentialism.
I mean, man, I gotta know though, because like I said, you are literally the first person that ever got that question in the questionnaire. Mike, what's your zombie apocalypse go-to weapon?
I always thought like it'd be cool if you had one of those, those crossing guard stop signs that they hold, like they're like the, short handle, but with a big stop sign. You get something like that reinforced. Maybe you get 3 of them, and you weld them together, and so you just have one short handle, but you have a nice round, hexagon shaped or whatever blade, and you just kind of sharpen the edges all the way around it, so it's kind of like a giant pizza cutter. And I feel like it would, for pure aesthetic reasons, having a stop sign that could chop zombies apart, and it was like a short, close range melee weapon. I feel like that would be, at least it'd be a good visual when you die and you're overwhelmed by them. It would make for a good still shot in a gallery of people getting murdered by zombies book.
See, this is what you get whenever you ask the comic artist guys about their zombie apocalypse weapons. You're going to get what would look the best in a panel more than what would be practical.
So in other words, noted. That's the version of the questionnaire I need to send to the artist. Gotcha, right? Because I could get real intriguing.
It should be done in a cowboy shot, like a little bit.
But hey, no offense, Danny. I think his is way more like actually practical and would. I don't think his would get you as killed as quickly, really, because it's just the nail sticking out. Huh?
as a bat with nails in it. I mean, you would think that. Have you ever picked up a stop sign? They're not very light. So
Okay.
3 of them.
As long as you have the ability to do it.
Being able to swing 3 stop signs on a steel pole.
Oh, I just meant
a
like
pretty
those,
big dude.
I just meant like the 3 actual like sign parts.
Yeah.
You get 3 of them. Even one though. Even one would be pretty good. I just feel like it would get, it would just get banged up around the edges and it wouldn't be sharp. But if you had 3 of them and you could kind of like weld them together, or like, basically a thick stop sign shaped blade, I guess is sort of what I was thinking. But like a stick, like a lollipop of death, basically. You know what I mean? A big stop sign with a short handle. So you know what I mean? And it would not like, I'm not talking double-sided like Darth Maul. I'm not talking. I'm talking more like a hand axe. But
Now,
it's a stop sign.
Firstly, that would be awesome, Mike. double-ended stop sign of doom.
That's it. Stop.
I mean,
how do you get a French one though? So it says arrête on it.
Are we just writing a zombie comic on the show right now?
Wait. We need a supercharged turbo leaf blower to confuse the zombies with sound.
Maybe. I hate those things though. Those things wake me up every day at 7:00 here.
But they're cool to work with.
I want to know. Well, then let's get. So we got 2 Canadian options. Vlad, you never got that.
And a
question
Walmart
there.
cart. Walmart cart. I mean, that's
Wait, you're gonna go with a
that's the
Walmart?
slow mover.
No, wait, Vlad. What's your
Walmart
weapon?
cart.
What's your weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse?
A Walmart.
Left hand, a leaf blower. Right hand, stapled car plate, so you can pull a Wolverine.
Mm.
And you're doing that while driving a Walmart cart. The cart for the interiors.
Okay. So we're clear. If the 3 of us meet up during the zombie apocalypse, Mike, I'm gonna help you modify that to where you can use it properly, and then 2 are just zombie bait. Okay. Just so we're clear. I'm sorry, because look, Danny, that thing is gonna get stuck in a board or a zombie head somewhere, and Vlad, I don't know what you're doing. Yeah, you just became the biggest distraction in the world. So I'm gonna tell Mike we're going this. Like, dude, you would be terrible at a D&D game. You would get the whole freaking group killed.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever been part of a D&D game. So
you've never.
So let's see.
That's interesting. You've never played D&D. So what got you?
Who would you be, a cleric or a bard?
I have no clue.
Danny would be a bard. Danny's a musician. He would be a bard.
Yeah,
he would be a bard.
Definitely.
And he'd have like an enchanted upright bass, and he'd be able to just cast spells with it and stun opponents with tasty rips.
Well, that's awesome, Danny. Because look, I too am a musician. I am one half of Kill the Factors, well as I am actually playing a bard in the game of D&D we're playing over here. Yeah, look, dude. That's just how it worked out, Vlad. All right, like Hannibal was going. I hadn't played since I was 15, Danny, and I mean, just things evolved to where this group got together on the show, and I was like, well, whatever, let's do it. It's been phenomenal. Y'all can check it out. Hopefully, there's 3 sessions out now. If the third one didn't give me a headache like the second did, so yeah. But okay, what did you get into first? Was it music, or was it art, or was it just kind of woven together within one another?
Yeah, it was probably all just woven together into one another, probably all around the same time. I mean, I've always kind of been drawing and writing stories, and and then I started playing music whenever I was 12-ish, and so yeah, it's all kind of the same thing. kind of the same time period, I guess.
Oh man, I wish I could remember, but I do not. But we had a conversation recently as far as the relation between music and art. It's a lot of conversations over here at the questionnaire, and I don't think I've edited that one yet, Stan. So there's that. But
Well, they're connected.
how do you? That's my question. How do you think, Danny, from your personal perspective of doing both, that the comic book and the art and the storytelling world intersect with the musical world?
They intersect with the music world in a book called Rebel Girls, out tomorrow.
Well, firstly,
What's
it's
it about?
already
What's it
firstly
about?
it's already out, Danny. By the time this comes out, secondly, that's what I was talking about the last question for, right? That should have been the right. I'm just saying. I'm gonna give you crap. I'm gonna give you crap about the first and the last question on this quest. That's what's up. But so you did very much let that comic, or that comic is very much influenced by your music. But I just mean in the actual forming of those things. Well, like, how do you think they're similar in their formation?
I don't know. I know that my process for putting together the comic was kind of based around the process that goes into recording music and like writing music. I kind of thought about the comic process from that same perspective of like a lot of comics that you see, you have one person, whether it be a writer, editor, or something like that, that's, you reach out to an artist and have them start drawing something for you, but then you're telling them every step of the way, like every little detail that you want changed or you want a cover done, and you send all these revisions back, and you keep going for perfection, but that's kind of the enemy of the actual art, whether it be in music, whether it be in comics. So, whenever I reach out to someone to do a cover, or whenever I work with Robert Ahmad, who does the interiors for me, and then I color them, like I just kind of give them the idea, show for the cover artist, just send them the copy of the comics and just say, do your interpretation of it. And I don't think I've ever sent anybody any revisions back on like covers or anything like that, because I don't want to take away the artist's perspective. And it's kind of the reason that I think like that is when you're writing songs with a band, if everybody is inputting their own personal style instead of having one person who writes the song and everybody just has to learn it and do exactly what they want them to do for how they want it to sound, you get a much better product. So that's kind of the way that I looked at writing the comic. All of these artists, like, I'm reaching out to them and hiring them for a reason, because I, like their stuff. I'm a fan of their work. So I want to see their work come through rather than me telling them this is exactly what I want. I want you to do it this way. I want you to draw in this style. Like, no, just do your own thing. And whenever we put all of those things together, we'll have a much better product. And, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but at least it'll make it a lot more fun getting to the final product. So I just kind of let the whole process of playing in bands and writing music kind of influence doing a comic about a band, like a teenage punk band that can, resurrect the dead and conjure ghosts, and the devil is trying to get them to sell their soul. So he sends a demon in the form of a CD record executive to try and convince them to sell their souls to the devil, but they don't want anything to do with it because they don't want to sell out. So that's the general idea for the book. And so it's very based around
That's
like
cool.
a high school, like teenage musician's view of like, I'm not going to sell out and compromise my vision at any cost, no matter if it means that I'm never going to make any money or, anything that would be logical for being able to do that for a living, actually making a living.
Yeah, that's funny because we recently had Jordan Noir on, right? And he works with a retailer there, and they do retailer exclusive cover, or that are exclusive to that retailer. And he said reaching out to certain companies. None were named. So they got real particular as far as in what those companies wanted, the characters you could and couldn't use, the characters you had to use, you know what I mean? And that was in an instance where he was like, so we decided not to pursue it because it was more of a headache than it's worth. So it's funny that you've ostensibly taken as a musician and written a comic that is in a large regard to about that exact same thing. Yeah. Why that story? Have you had that experience?
No, it's just like I was looking for a way to tell some of the funny, just funny stories that had came from playing music for, 15, 20 years or so around the Southeast, like playing in bar bands and stuff. You get a lot of there's just a lot of things that people say to you that are funny or experiences that you go through. And I was trying to figure out a way to be able to tell some of those, but also, just add it to a kind of supernatural type horror comedy comic. And so I figured, what type of band could I write about in the Southeast that would, get the most flack and that would have the most difficult time of actually building an audience. And I just kept coming back to an all-girl, feminist punk band in the South. And so I just kind of built off of that. And it just, I've always been a fan of the early 90s, the kind of post-punk, like feminist punk movement with bands like Bikini Kill and Bratmobile. And I've always liked their kind of against everybody else attitudes. And it doesn't matter if people are upset that, at what you're saying, you just keep going out and doing it. And all those bands were they were trying to get started in a music genre that was dominated by, at the time, a lot of your white guy hardcore bands, and girls were all considered to be jacket holders and things like that is what they were referred to as. And so they were like, no, we can do this too. And so when thinking about, a band to base the comic series around, I was like, I'm going to go with a band like that because, just seems like it would be fun to write those characters. And, I had in the music scene around here, I can only think of one all girl punk band, all female punk band in the area. And they were some friends of mine that, they were a fantastic band. They were called the Florence Nightingales. And I was like, they had a completely different set of challenges with getting their music over in this area than, bands like the punkabilly band that I was in that was, to make money, we would play, a lot of country covers and play in bars, and you're just background noise for, old dudes getting drunk. And, you don't really build a crowd that way. You don't build a fan base that way. And so, yeah, I thought that would be a fun subject matter, I guess. And like I said, I've always just been a fan of those bands and just respected what they were able to accomplish and what they set out to accomplish in that scene, where they were pretty much, they were kind of the outsiders looking in from the start. And yeah.
All I know is from what you said, you're right. You don't get a crowd or create a fan base from doing things like that. No, you get a fan, but you know what you also, I wouldn't think, do from doing that. You don't get the other local artists infuriated with you as much, I would assume, if that's what you're doing. Yeah. See, yeah, and Well, because look, if anybody wants to go ever see anything from me on stage, I'm sure you can find footage somewhere. Like, there's nothing calm about it. Go figure. And yeah, so that's just interesting. You're making me be like, man, maybe I should have just done more like, you know, calm stuff like that and watching people get drunk while I was background noise, and I wouldn't have had the situations that I did. But that's neither here nor there, right? So you're bringing in, to where you've got somebody, the devil coming in trying to get them to sign a contract. You've got that going on. Have you put any other conflicts within this? Because, like you said, they're trying to come up in that scene. I mean, because I feel like you could easily create a conflict where you've got another rival band that would obviously will want them to go away. So I mean, dude, there's so many ways you could take this. How many spoilers can I get out of you, Danny? That's really what I want to know.
Yeah, I haven't really introduced any other bands into it yet because they're in the first story arc, which is what wraps up in this in issue 4. It's mostly them being chased by the guy that's trying to get them to sign the contract, but also a guy that's trying to disrupt that and just to spite the devil. And that's kind of your villain in the story. And since they're in the South and the villains that wouldn't want them to play music would be a specific type of, patron, the villain of the story is a skeleton, like a country western skeleton called the Boot Scootin' Boogeyman. And he has an army of zombies that's chasing them. And all of the zombies, instead of, mumbling brains and things like that, they mumble song requests of songs that no one would want to play. Like, they're saying things like Sweet Caroline and Wagon Wheel and Freebird and things like that. So
Cancelled Spotify lists.
yeah. lots of fun shenanigans throughout the book.
But the devil isn't the villain.
No, not the main villain. Not in the first story arc. The devil's trying to get them to sell their soul, but
it's not a typical Christianity story, Jay.
I mean, well, that's what confused me, though. I'm like, he said that the devil was trying to get them to sell the soul, but then he was like, but the villain is, and I'm like, well, wouldn't the villain be the person that was trying to take your soul, regardless of who they were? I don't understand how that was.
It's one of the villains, the overreaching villain of the story, but the main villain is the guy trying to disrupt that.
Okay, that's fine. I was just, the way you would late that, I was like, are you using the devil as because there have been instances in stories to where he's very much been used to where he's not the villain, and that's fine. I was just more than anything curious as to what conjuncture you were using him within this one, because, you can take it any way you want, man. That's the way stories work. So I was just curious because that's something when you take and make the devil not an evil character, a lot of people tend to have problems with that. And then sometimes, like, Lucifer, it does phenomenally, so it's an odd balance as far as figuring out where that is and what the line is. So I was just, and
in the fourth issue, you get the first glimpse of the devil. So the devil is mentioned in a lot of the issues, but the first glimpse of her is in the fourth issue, and it's a female, because all of the strong characters in the story are female. So yeah, I kind of got some crap about that from one reviewer about the devil being a female, but all of the main characters, all of the powerful characters are female in the book. So yeah.
So you got particular crap from who? Can we say, like, why? I don't understand. Like, what?
I'm trying to remember which site it was, but it was one of the reviewers that just said that people would be up in arms because of that. But the only person that was ever up in arms was that particular reviewer. But but I think in that same review, they also dragged the entire state of Alabama So yeah, they were like, he's from
So-
Alabama, so he must be like all this other stuff. So yeah.
Will there be at some point in a story they go in a bar and they play behind a chain fence, but the chain fence is a possessed entity, and then it comes with trouble.
There's actually a joke in the
Possessed.
script that I just wrote about there not being chicken wire around the front of the stage like there typically was, and yeah. So,
And they
but
pull
no-
Blues Brothers Rawhide.
yeah. So
Classic.
yeah, it's,
Classic. As is every Swamp Thing I've ever seen you draw, Mike. But that's not. Jeez, dude. Just
Oh, I don't even know what I'm drawing here. I'm just kind of doodling.
just muscle memory at this point.
Yeah, I just never know what I should be doing with him. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll just do a close up of his head. And no, I'll scale it back a bit. Like I've already erased this a couple times, so I don't know.
make him really flowery.
Really flowery.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I was just throwing something out there random.
Yeah. Actually, spring edition.
Just cover him in kudzu. Since it's the
Sometimes it's a
Alabama
good idea to
edition.
listen to my ideas. Sometimes it's absolutely terrible, Mike, and that's all I'll say. So,
Yeah,
With-
he's seeding himself.
but with
the
that
hand.
in mind,
If
I got to say, you said one person gave you crap over the whole thing as far as the devil. Look, Kevin Smith got death threats over Dogma. I'm pretty sure none of them were over Alanis Morissette playing God. Like,
Yeah, but that was
really?
like a quarter of a century. That was like, it was a different world. Like,
you
and
don't
he
think
just got the
no,
rights
wait,
to it
wait.
back, so we can finally watch it again.
Yeah.
wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Dogma?
Yeah, it hasn't been able to be released on DVD streaming or anything for the past, like, I don't know, 2 decades or so. Like, and he
Well,
finally
that's
got
pretty much
the rights back.
US
so,
only.
Well,
yeah,
no, it was. It was because it was from a certain individual in Hollywood that became very undisputable for certain set actions, and kind of to the essence of he didn't just spell the word rapper and leave out a P, you know what I mean, kind of thing. But this was in Hollywood on a different note, and I'm not trying to give that gentleman any kind of he made enough. It's not mentioned his name, but yeah, I was very happy to see that he got those rights back. But I mean. So yeah, I think it's odd that people would be bothered by the devil being a female. I don't know. It's that's one of the weirdest notes to take a problem with. I think is like,
yeah, but any review that I've been able to get, whether it's good, bad, neutral, whatever, I'm just happy that people are reading it. So, and there were good things and bad things in most of the reviews that I found. So, but then again, you're probably not supposed to read those, but I'm just curious to what people think.
never read the comments. Only worry about the people that directly message your opinions. In that regard, as far as and that's all dependent upon what level you are. But just
What do you
I would
mean?
say.
What do you
There's
mean?
no comments.
I'll
There's no
disregard a
comments
lot
on
of
any
it.
of my stuff.
What do you mean by people who direct message you? Like what kind of message? Like positive, negative?
Like people
like-
trying to get you to join their new jewelry business as a spokesperson or something. 'Cause that's the direct messages that I get. It's like, we've got a new goth jewelry line, and we think you would be the perfect
Hi,
spokesperson.
please buy.
You just
Please
need
buy.
to send us money.
No, my favorite one. Here, I'll tell you a story I got recently from a direct message. This was sheer comedy gold. Because this guy was way more persistent than I thought he would be. It was amazing. But he messages me like, hey, man, you want to make some money? Blah, blah, blah. All right. So it's an investment scheme right off the bat. I can tell. All right. That's fine. Right. So I'm going to kind of screwy
Those
mood.
come around every now and
Yeah,
then.
but I'm in kind of a screwy mood. Let's mess with him. Right. Why not? Right. He's telling me I can make like 2 to 8 G's. Hey, man, that sounds fantastic. Why don't you just take 2 G's and sponsor the questionnaire for a couple months, and I will mention you on the show for a few months, man. All you got to do is give me $2,000, right? And that's what I'll do for you. That's what I'm telling you, right? Just like adamant. This dude Facebook calls me, and I'm like,
Oh wow.
what? Really? And I pick it up. I mean, he is clearly Middle Eastern of something. I don't know what, but you could hear the accent. You know what I mean? But he was listening to me, and he couldn't see me. Right? Dude could only like hear me, and I might have been in like full hip hop mode. And this dude was suddenly like, "Hey, listen, bro, I'm going to tell you." And I'm like, this dude is trying to talk hip hop because, and I'm like, this dude, like, I was like, this just got kind of racist from this dude on a really funny level. And I understand, I'm still like, yeah, man, you should just give me 2 G's to sponsor this show. That's what's up. Like, come on, man, it'll do you good. I'll support your business, right? Like, and this dude is still, he sent me a video of a bunch of screenshots of like, of 2 phones and a computer or something and this and that. Like, no, look, man, I'm telling you, I can make you money. And I'm just like, that one hurt my head. And because I'm sitting there thinking, like, if you were very inept, you know, and you didn't like think like I did. Like, oh, dude, you showed me a bunch of images on a computer. You have any idea how many images I could show you on a computer? In no way, shape, or form are real, right? Like, I could show you a document that said I owned Amazon. All right, I could. Like that, I was the legal owner of Amazon. Will it pass in a court? No, right? But at the same time, you got this dude out there using that to manipulate people, and it's slightly terrifying. You know what I mean? But have you ever had anything on that, on the comic book side of things, as far as people trying to approach you and scheme you out of that? Because look, man, some of the horror stories I've heard from some artists, as far as people being like, you know, look, man, just let's do this and this, and I'm going to use your art for that. Was that a Mike that I just heard from you?
No, I coughed.
Oh, all right. I thought, well, if Mike hasn't encountered this, I would be amazed.
No, Mike just turned on his superpower, invisibility.
Mike's like, I don't want to talk about it. But have you ever had that happen?
My invisibility, yeah. I want to ask.
I get a lot of the same one, the goth jewelry one. I get a lot of the fake commission stuff where it's like someone will be like, I love your work, I'm a huge fan, and I'll be like, oh, thanks, you know. That's usually as far as I go with it. And then they'll say, well, I really would love to get a commission from you. And I'm like, well, my commissions are closed. Like, oh, well, I'm willing to pay anything if you'll do a portrait of me and my son. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really do that, so no, it's cool. Well, I'll pay you whatever you want, though. Like, I have $4,000 ready to pay you for this commission. And I'm like, that's cool. You should keep it and buy something good, because I don't do portraits of people and their sons. Typically, I have, but I'm out of that business now. Now I draw turtles and monsters and shit, and you know, that's what I do. And like they'll keep on pushing.
There's a Facebook app that you can, like, on a Facebook app, you could just put a picture of yourself and it'll turn it into a sketch for you. And all you have to do is answer some questions about, I don't know, like, who's your favorite Friends character or something.
Yeah.
I don't really know how that stuff works, but
yeah, it comes with like a, you know, emoji and a sticker package of yourself.
Yeah, there is. So I mean, I've had that kind of thing, but not. Nothing really related to comics directly. No.
How do you know if that was a scam? How do you know that dude wasn't just legit? Like, here's the money. Draw.
You just feel it.
Oh no, it's just there's a feeling, there's an instinct, and you know, the next step would have been them sending me some kind of PayPal link or something like that. It wouldn't be a direct payment that they would just want to pay in advance, and I'd always be like, nope, I don't take any pay in advance, like, ever on anything. Oh, really? Oh, that's ridiculous. That's not a good way to do business. Here, let me send you $4,000 right now. And I'm like, no, it's cool. I won't be accepting anything you send me, because I know at this point I know it's a scam, because you know, if they want to pay before they even, like, first of all, my work has 0 examples of me doing portraits of people and their son. Like, if they're looking at my Instagram or my website or anything, they won't find any of that anywhere ever. They might search 15 years back on Facebook and see something, but they're not going to see anything even close to that kind of work on my site. So I already know that's a lie. And then secondly, $4,000, no one's just going to drop $4,000 out of nowhere, like, to some stranger they've just messaged on Instagram. And then, what's going to happen next is they're going to send a link for me to take that money. Like it'll be some kind of an money transfer link or something like that. And it will get messed up. And then they'll need me to send them, $50 or something to unlock that link that they just sent me. And now
that's the scam. That's what they're aiming for. $50.
Yeah, and now they've got your card info or your whatever a vein that goes to your money, to your money pocket, and then they can just start fucking you that way. So.
And then they send you the picture of like the kid that they want you to draw, and you're like, "Is that River Phoenix?"
yeah. It's just weird. Like, so there's that kind of. I mean, I tend to have a pretty good instinct on that kind also, of shit, for sure.
The sentence structure of these dialogues is also slightly.
Oh yeah.
So you can feel it from that, like, if they miss something grammatically or something.
Of course, yeah, that's a dead giveaway. But even when they got that into things tight, although like I've been scammed. I had an identity loss. I think it was like 2005, and I was pretty new to the internet in those days because I was kind of a late bloomer technologically speaking. And I remember getting an email that was like it was actually, weirdly enough, it was a Skype thing. It was it was a thing for my bank or my PayPal or something.
I was about to be like, Mike, be quiet. Don't let everybody know. This has just been a really, 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 really long running scam I got going here over on the questionnaire. Why do you think I do it on Skype?
It seriously messed up my life for about 5 years, though, to be honest. Even though the hilarious part was the scammers trying to steal from a penniless artist, right? So they did some kind of scam where I had to sign into my Facebook or sign into my PayPal, and I put in my login information, which meant they now had my login information. And the email I got looked legit. It had the PayPal logo. It looked pretty legit. But then when you start to analyze it and you go through it, like my wife was familiar with these kind of scams. She was at work that day when I got scammed, though, and she pointed out all these little tiny things that would have been a giveaway for it being fake. But like, it really messed me up because, hilariously, I only had $15 available on my credit card, but they took it and they bought Skype dollars with it, but because they had compromised my card, it meant that they had to shut that card down. It also meant they had to temporarily shut my bank account down. But the problem was, at the time, all of my identification had expired. My passport had expired. I don't have a driver's license. So I actually had no way to prove who I was. So for the next 5 years, every time I went to the bank to make a withdrawal or do a payment or anything, it was a whole fucking thing to prove that I was really who I said I was. All because some hack took $15 out of my credit card. So, the price was much bigger than the cost in that sense. But yeah, I've never trusted anything since.
Good call. Yeah, let's get back to to comics and unicorns.
And
That's a nice
unicorns.
fun thing.
Where are we bringing
right
the unicorns?
happy topics.
Yeah.
All right. So about the upcoming election.
Really? Have you seen the Falcon 9 going down, like catching up in the air, all of that stuff?
But no, what?
The rocket that was caught in the air, Elon Musk.
Oh yeah,
that was cool. That was cool.
Pretty wild. Yeah, they caught the booster with basically giant metal chopstick forks. Yeah, that was pretty wild.
Is this a new thing that happened today?
No, it happened last week.
Last
or week
week,
before
yeah.
last. Yeah,
Last
they
week,
launched a rocket and the booster fell, and they had engineered it to where it would fall, they would catch it, and then they can reuse that booster over and over again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy sight to see.
That's fairly impressive, and thanks, Mike, for making me not the only one in the room had no idea what they were talking about.
Dude, I'm here at my table all the time. You can ask my wife. I have no idea what's happening in the world at all.
I only know it when somebody comes on the show and tells me something.
I don't know what's happening in the world and most stuff, but for some reason I've always kind of followed stuff with space exploration Like I follow a bunch of pages that talk about it, and like some of my friends work locally at a place called Blue Origin that builds parts for SpaceX, and so I keep up with posts that they share and stuff like that. So I see a lot of it online, but that launch was pretty impressive that they were able to pull that off, and that will set up being able to reuse that will cut the cost on launches drastically. So
Yeah, and the
it was
physics,
a pretty big moment. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So,
but if we're gonna nerd out on the space stuff,
yeah,
here is a mind blowing info. Like, we are officially 6 years to Zephram Cochrane era from Star Trek, the guy who invented warp drive.
Oh, that's true.
He was born in early 30s of 2000.
That's right.
wow.
So we're almost there.
Maybe we'll be back to the moon by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get real. We're gonna get real nerdy into space real quick. I just got to point out though, the moment I looked away and laughed was because, oh my gosh, I forgot some of the questions I put on this questionnaire, and that's a hilarious answer, Danny. I'm not even gonna tell you what question for y'all out there just made me go. All you gotta do is go over to Patreon, just be a member, and see some of the ridiculous questions now that I proceed to ask the individuals.
Ooh, this is a good one. This is a good one.
Oh,
Toy
no,
you had as a kid that you still want. So, what toy you want still as an adult?
you don't take that off the table, Vlad. We ain't getting into that.
Oh.
That's saved for a special bit. Don't do that to me, Vlad. You know what that's for. Don't do that to me. No, we're gonna get into space, man, because I want to know, right? So you're writing this story because you have experience as a musician, right? Right. Okay, Vlad, you're gonna mess up my end bit, man. Don't hurt me like
it's
that.
okay. You good.
Don't hurt my feelings, Vlad. So you started this out because you were into musician, but obviously, like you said, you have a passion for space travel. You got any space stories in you that are like in the works, right?
Yeah, I want to write something. I've got some random ideas bouncing around, but nothing I've really developed that much. But yeah, I would love to. Like, I love the comic that Jeff Lemire did a couple of years ago called Primordial. Like, that was a fantastic
cool.
story.
That
Like,
was
Mike
cool.
did a cover for it. Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I
I
did.
forgot about that you had did a couple of covers for that one, but that story was awesome. Like, I would like to do something kind of like that. Like,
That one sounds familiar.
It's it's like the monkeys that were sent into space.
What's the name of
Yes.
a comic again?
Primordial.
Primordial.
It's an image title.
There's like 4 or 5 issues. I can't remember if it was 4 or 5, but it was just a mini
21.
series. But it was really like the way that it ended and everything came together. It's really just kind of a beautiful story. Like, it was really, really good.
I mean,
But,
Jeff's a phenomenal writer, man. I haven't really found anything
Yeah.
by him that I was like, because the last thing I read by him was The Body That Was Left, which was phenomenal, but very much not a space story.
yeah.
You know, very much not a space. So I'm curious to read that. But
I'm looking
so
right now.
like you just got a couple cooking, but not on the back burner. So are you planning anything after this book, or are you is the main thing just continuing to run on this book and seeing how far you can take it? Because obviously, clearly, with where you said it ends at issue 4, you've got another arc at least in mind. I don't know how far plotted out.
Yeah. I've got I'm currently working on a one shot that will kind of bridge volume 1 and volume 2. I know where I would want to go for volume 2 and really volume 3 and 4, but it's just getting to a point where I've built up enough of a fan base to be able to get the funding to keep it going. But I have several other stories and other scripts that are finished and ready to go. It's just a matter of getting to a point to be able to do them. Like, Mike and I have a project that we want to work on that we've got a script for that it's something that we've worked on together, a concept, an idea that kind of came up with together. And so, you know, eventually we'll get to that. And then I've got a couple of other scripts.
No.
finished,
Hey, Danny, you can't just say that. And not, are you going to give any details?
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to spoil too much of it. It's for me.
Come on, Mike, just a little.
Well, okay, sure. So for me, it's how do I tell this story without?
Now I'm more intrigued.
Two things inspired this story. One, visually, from a pure world building and visual side of things, it was Thundar the Barbarian, the cartoon, that kind of inspired the aesthetic of the story that you know we're kind of doing. And it was kind of originally more traditional fantasy, but I was starting to think about, and it was actually Danny that started to, like, you know, kind of verbally describe how he saw the character. And and all of a sudden we were incorporating elements that weren't of that standard kind of, you know, Iron Age, you know, medieval time kind of aesthetic. It was more moving towards a ruinous apocalyptic thing. And then I kind of thought, yeah, well, I love that Thundar the Barbarian vibe, where it's sword and sorcery, but it takes place in a ruined Earth. Like, there's elements of Earth that are recognizable, but it's just gone. It's thousands of years gone, and you know, and the character. So that was the one thing. But the main inspiration for me for the story, weirdly, was there was another creator that I was working with on a project, and I wasn't able to produce pages fast enough because I was working on my book Dodge, which is complete, and I only have like 2 or 3 more art rewards to ship out to that 15-month late Kickstarter fulfillment, but that's a whole other story. But I was working on this other project with this other creator, a person that I love, a person who I really respect, but I wasn't able to produce pages fast enough. And then they went and hired a hack to start drawing that story instead. And I saw the first like 5 or 6 pages, and they filled me with an intolerable amount of rage that I couldn't live with. And Danny very often is the person who hears my anger about things, because my poor wife has suffered these 25 years of yelling as an old man yelling at a cloud. So Danny, you know, Danny being in Alabama and not within arm's reach, I have to vocalize my thoughts differently, and you know, I kind of vent on him a little bit, and he knows what I'm talking about. And you know, I still am friends with the creator in question. I still love the guy, and I still love the story, and I would love to do it one day. But this is kind of a revenge story, because that story didn't happen. And that story that I felt like I had been invested in was handed to a total hack who kind of shit the bed on the story, and then just disappeared and left us. You know, he didn't get much further than I got.
Very
with my
difficult
pages.
Very difficult pages to color.
Very difficult pages
Very
to color,
difficult.
because Danny took a crack at it and did as amazingly well as you could, given what he was handed. And it wasn't that the drawings were bad or that this artist is bad. It was just the approach was wrong, and the approach couldn't have been further away from the original vision that I had with the creator in question. And so the one that we're working on is going to be closer, I think, to the spirit of that thing. That, you know, hopefully will happen one day, but I'm more excited about the possibility of what Danny and I could do with ours instead.
Nice. I am very much intrigued.
I kind of describe it as, like, I don't know, Red Sonja crossed with like Tank Girl and Thundar.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it definitely has that. Yeah, we're both Red Sonja fans, right? Like, we both, like, Danny actually, you may or may not know, Danny colors a bunch of my work, and this is one that he and I teamed up on, and Danny did the sweet colors on this Red Sonja cover. And it was something that we both wanted to do. We wanted to do our own variant on Red Sonja, and you know, with Dynamite, you're pretty much left to draw whatever you want to draw. And Danny's whole thing was like, I'll split the run with you, I'll split the cost. All I want to do is color it. And at this point, Danny and I had done a couple of Turtles things together, and a Dick Tracy book, and And this is a Steve Niles Red Sonja story, which is exciting because we're both fans of his work. And this was just a lot of fun. And Danny murdered it on the colors, like, that definitely was kind of like a warm up for what we'd like to do.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and Red Sonja was kind of a bucket list book for me. I'm a pretty big fan, and I collect the Red Sonja, especially the Marvel Red Sonja stuff. I think I'm
the 80s or something like that.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, but right over your shoulder, right there, is that?
Yeah, there's a
Red Sonja.
There's a Dan Parent.
Yes,
Red Sonja sketch up there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The other walls, I've got a Rich Woodall Red Sonja, and then another spot at the house, I've got one of Mike's Red Sonjas. I think it was done with like a toothbrush or something.
Oh yeah,
Mike with that. Look, he kills me with that. Danny, the whole I swear, Mike, you had me at one point. If I could afford all the shipping it would cost me, I was gonna ship 5 artists a random item and be like, come on a PanCon and draw. But I don't know. One, if I could get 5 artists to agree with that. I know you would have been down, but I would have had to have sent it to you. Like if we did that, Mike, you probably would have opened a package. You've been like, what in the? Because
I kind of want to do next couple shows I do. I want to do a panel at show. I could do one live too, but I want to do a panel. I've done one before, and it was successful. Of drawing with random objects, and I actually had people bring me random objects to the panel, which could go one or two ways. It's either going to be really cool or really weird. I guess the third way would be gross as well. Like someone once brought me like their denture box, like a slimy denture box. Someone brought me their ex-boyfriend's toothbrush, which had been left at the house, and they're like, I want you to draw with his toothbrush. And I was like, I want you to keep that in the Ziploc bag you brought it in.
I want you to draw with this used dildo.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Right.
I would see if we ever do
those
are quite unique experiences.
Yeah.
Those are convention only, right?
Oh, convention only, absolutely.
Oh no! Look, Mike. If we ever do get to the point where I do manage to get that arranged, I promise I'll keep it between interesting and weird, like right in the center, but enough to where it's like he would do some crap like that, right?
Man, you should. I want to start an Instagram page called Convention Creatures. Similar to the Subway Creatures from New York, but for comics.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what? You guys want to talk about the Hawaiian shirt guy?
No. You know what? Maybe you'll get Dan Parent on the show one day, and he can tell you about the Hawaiian shirt guy. He has all the best stories.
Wait! Are you
Who's
not
a Hawaiian
surprised?
Shirt guy?
Yeah, see, Vlad doesn't know this at all. But...
So Hawaiian shirt guy is and he wears a lei or several leis around his neck too. He's not Hawaiian though. I don't know, but he shows up at these shows all the time. And he's been going to these shows for years and years and years and years. I've seen him for as long as I've been doing conventions. And he always comes to my table and asks for a commission. I always tell him my price is $9,000 so that he'll leave me alone. And it's been a little thing we have. And but his whole thing is he gets drawings of different female characters, and they have to be wearing like a wedding dress or like a prom dress or something like that. But he needs to have more and more and more petticoats. So like the dress has to be blowing from the some kind of air wind source from below, right? So the dress is blowing up, and then you don't actually see any bits because it's a convention. There's children there, but you see petticoats, like layers upon layers of underwear and lace. And he's one of those guys that you could draw 50 layers of petticoats underneath Veronica's dress, and he'll still come back and tell you to add more petticoats. And he pays, as far as I know, but he is a strange motherfucker. And every time he comes to my table, I'm always like, dude, I'm too busy. Or but they go, how much are your commissions? And I'm like, it's $9,000, you know.
So wait. Am I too from the story you just told,
Man, this is pure gold.
I'm like, well, just am I to understand that the gentleman that asks for the really, really ridiculous lace is the same as the Hawaiian shirt gentleman? Because I remember you telling that story, but I don't remember it being related to the Hawaiian shirt guy, which got brought up recently on an episode with Scott and, oh man, who was that with? Scott's been doing too much stuff recently.
Oh, it could
Maybe
be
it's
the
just
other
there been too
Hawaiian
many
shirt
questions.
guy.
But
Because
that was the Hawaiian
there's the
shirt
glue
guy?
guy. There's the glue guy. Have you guys heard about the glue guy?
No. Man,
So-
you should make a Convention Splendor comic book. You have mileage for
Yeah,
that
no,
like,
yeah,
experiences.
It was David Jacob Duke and Scott on a past
Okay.
quest where we ended up discussing the Hawaiian shirt guy. Hold on, let me make sure I'm
I
right.
want to hear
Let me
the other
see.
story. I want to hear the other guy's story.
Yeah.
This is like
So, there's the glue guy, and the glue guy is like a dude who used to get drawings of female characters, usually, or like just parts of them, but drawn with glue, like not with glue, but drawn with glue in the illustration somehow. So, like, it might be a topless She-Hulk covered in running in white glue all over her, or it might be Power Girl, but just a shot of Power Girl's breast window with glue all over her chest, or it might be
He just can't tell you he wants you to cover them in jizz.
well, that's
Oh,
it.
God.
Or it might be something. It might be something more of a vignette, like a character's feet, but they're standing, and it's a close up of their feet, but one foot is lifting, and there's strings of glue. You know what I mean? Like this kind of thing, and yeah, that was his gimmick, and I think he gave that up after getting kind of called out for it. Now he's like, I think now he's like Hawaiian shirt luchador mask who gives free hugs at shows, usually with like the scantily dressed cosplayers. I think he just kind of evolves like a Pokemon into different convention creatures.
Different creeps.
Yeah, creepy creature versions of
Okay,
yeah.
okay. That's
creature
enough.
from the Convention Laguna.
That's enough creepy convention stories that got creepy quickly. So back to a point that was brought up in this whole diatribe of everything.
These are pure gold, man. This is like...
Fine, continue, Vlad. Whatever. I'll get to my point later.
I'm sorry, please go.
No, go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, these are really pure gold because, like, a lot of people don't do conventions. A lot of artists are overseas. So, like, I do New York. Maybe if I get lucky, I'll do a few more in the next few years. So, this is like a solid gold field stuff that you can get anywhere because European conventions are completely different. So,
Right. Yeah, they're totally different. Yeah, I know. It's
Oh,
yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
man. No, go ahead.
Well, no,
Yeah,
I
that's-
just think
that's-
it's
that's
funny
it.
that the lace story that you gave so long ago on this show, Mike. It's been a while since you very first told the story of that gentleman with the lace. Was the Hawaiian shirt guy that got brought up very, very recently by that moniker, and me merely saying that, you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly who that is.
Yeah, well, there is because there is. I mean, if it was a local creator, the Hawaiian shirt guy that I was initially thinking of, he's at all these shows. I saw him get strong armed and got like dragged out of a show. Where was I again? It was a little show in Niagara Falls, I think, last summer. And I was so excited as I watched it happen that I actually had to text Dan.
Draw it.
I had to text Dan Parent and be like, they're taking Bride's Guy. We call him Bride's Guy because all he wants is drawings of brides. That's our name for him, is Bride's Guy. But I'm like, they're dragging Bride's Guy out of this show, man. There's like 4 big goons and he's kicking and screaming and they're dragging him out of the show and it's beautiful. And he was like, what did he do? I'm like, I don't know. And I still never found out what he did. I think it was something to do with a fake pass. He had made a fake pass or something. Like he had a VIP pass, but he altered it to look like a fucking
McLovin.
all access or something. I don't know what it was, but he had a gimmicked up pass, and that's how he got kicked out. I think in that instance. But yeah, he'll ask the wrong artist one day to draw his stroke material, and it's going to go badly for him.
Yeah, imagine him asking that Simon Beasley.
Well, Bisley would just draw it for him. He wouldn't care. Yeah, Bisley would just draw it for him, man. Yeah. He'd just take his money. It'd be fine. Unshakable.
That's just.
Do you know, Jay? Do you know the story about the mysterious poop on a New York Comic Con from last year? I think, or 2022.
Wait.
Yeah, someone took a dump at New York Comic Con or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that was last year. I saw it.
Oh,
Sadly.
that's not good.
No.
Jeez.
It was on the main floor somewhere.
Oh.
What? Why? What? I have so many questions. I have. You said it was on the main floor.
It's a we're sharing convention stories. I don't have many, but I saw some. Let's go back to questions. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
You know what? Back to the point that I was trying to get to before Vlad said to continue this chicanery, and then we continued it, and now we're to poop on the floor at New York Comic Con. I think that's a good point to go back to the point of you said this was a difficult thing to color, as far as in reference to that particular project. You said it was pretty much, and I'll be real honest, that's not something I would ever think of in regards to the art. Like they just made that really hard to color. And since we've got Vlad here, who is a colorist, I want to know from you guys, what is it when you see from an artist that you look at it and you go, I can't color this, and just makes you want to throw the page away?
Oh yeah.
Tell him, Danny.
Yeah, lots and lots of overused ink washes could be like someone not knowing how to use an ink wash and everything just kind of looks like mud, and or there being no detail, like the details just aren't there. Like, there's, I don't know, you can't tell where like an arm ends and the clothes begin, or like where a leg ends and a shoe begin. Like you have to make.
Oh, I just paint in that, like.
Yeah, and then you get into the get into the backgrounds and stuff's blending in with the characters, and you're trying to figure out like, where does something, like what am I even looking at here? Like, I think that the worst thing is whenever you're looking at a piece and you're zooming in like on an iPad or something, you're really looking at it close and you're like, I have no clue what I'm even looking at. Like, I don't know how to color this, so let's just go with a nice desaturated color to push this into the back. I don't have to think about it.
Preferably gray. Preferably gray.
Gray or blue, like a bluish gray color to just push it out of.
You can't go wrong with that one.
Drop the contrast.
Yeah, and hope that the letterer will put the bubble there.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
That's why you letter your own stuff. That's where you could just cover up what you need to.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse, when you color your own stuff, when you plan and then don't put the bubble where you wanted it, or when you don't plan and then just like cover up.
Yeah, because sometimes like it's hard to like. It sucks because you're looking at a panel and you're like, oh, there's so many great details here. It's like, but I've got quite a bit of dialogue that I can't really cut, so I'm going to have to cover up a lot of stuff. Like, how do you manage to do that? And it's tough to make the call. I always tend to go with the way that Hellboy and stuff like the Goon and like the 90s Dark Horse did a lot of like having the bubbles where the characters, like the bubbles kind of behind their heads and stuff like that, behind their shoulders, and you kind of letter around the character and fill in as much as you can in the background, but to keep the character, without. So a lot of times the bubbles look like the character standing in front of them or something, like in order to be able to pack in all the dialogue. And I don't write like a ton of dialogue for the stuff that I've lettered that I've written, but it always kind of helps me whenever I'm going through, especially with like Rebel Girls and a couple other things that I've worked on that I've done the lettering for. Like I'll restructure the dialogue, and a lot of times like just tighten it up quite a bit as I'm going through and lettering, just for the sake of trying not to cover up the details that are in the art, and kind of, I guess, looking at it from a different perspective of like, okay, what can I do to minimize the dialogue and get the point across and still kind of capture the feel of how I want the character to, their personality to come out in the dialogue, but also not use a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be there. Don't describe things that you can clearly see is happening in the panel. And, it's kind of a balancing act. And I go back and forth a lot.
And I would assume once that you have the completed art, it does make it easier to edit the dialogue, because you can look at the art in its entirety and tell exactly what was included. So oh, well, I don't have to say that, or I do have to say that. Have you ever found yourself in a conundrum in that situation, though, where you're like, oh, crap, I have to fit all these words on this, and I don't want to cover this?
Yeah, that definitely happens, like almost every book like that I've done. Like I would rather not letter. Like it's like I've had to learn how to do it just out of necessity to cut cost, and but there are a lot of people who are way better than I am that I would love to have work on my projects. I just can't afford to right now, but maybe one day I won't have to do it.
I think you can also use the rule for lettering. I think that was the Marvel editor or someone from the early 90s, I think, or something like that. I cannot remember correctly, but there is that rule about no more than 12 bubbles on a page, and hopefully no more than 5 panels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a solid rule for bubbles, like for dialogue, so you don't overcrowd the page with text, so people don't get bored because they don't want to read. So, and I think that they enforced that like in the early 2000s. That was really active between 2005 and 2015. That was the era where especially Marvel Comics and DC, I think, were holding onto that rule. And also there's like a old rule from one editor from DC from the 60s who was like had the cage, like 6 panels, and everything was structured the same, so the story would be consistent in every issue, so that everybody would be on time. Like he was really, I cannot remember. I read that in one book. I cannot remember the name, but it was like a pretty solid structure.
I just like your line, don't include too many words because people don't like to read.
Google it. I mean, that was a thing like 15 or 20 years ago.
I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, Vlad. I'm just saying it's depressing.
Oh, it's super depressing.
It was a moment in time.
I kind of like to live
more pictures.
About the idea of, kind of keeping the pages to 5 or 6 panels at most. Like I have a few pages in the, 8-ish, I think around 8 stories that I've written that have actually been published, that like, there's a few pages in all of those where you go over 6 panels, but most of the time it's in my stuff, it's not going to be more than 6 panels, just because I like to be able to see what's going on in the panels. Whenever you start getting into 8, 10, and 12 panels, everything has to be so small that, if you have to put lettering into it, like what are you even looking at? Like, what's the point in having someone draw all of this stuff and try and cram everything into these tiny panels where they're having to use a magnifying glass to even see what they're doing?
And if you're doing that
digitally anyway.
If you're doing that digitally, that's another problem, because if you zoom in to drive all those details in a small panel, when you zoom it out, like you put too much effort in it and you cannot see it properly.
Yeah, when it prints, it'll be just mud. It'll just be fuzz, Yeah.
Some of the, I think, like that run from Greg Capullo and Snyder on Batman, the cartoonish one from like 10 years
Yeah.
ago. Well, Dan and Nikki was doing digital inking, and I love those inks. But there are some panels that had those problems, like when you see the small panel and there's a lot of details, and you see like how he zoomed. He's like took a smaller number for the ink brush, and you see the thinner lines and everything, and it kind of like messes composition in the moments, but overall it works well. So it's it's a problem sometimes, just a technical thing.
And it definitely it can be done, and it can look great. I mean, you look at some of the panels that Mike drew in Dodge that have 10 or 12 panels on a page, and all of them look phenomenal. Like, I guess me personally, like whenever I'm writing a script, like I guess I just can't wrap my head around that many panels on a page. Like I don't know. It's I've never had anybody show me how to write a comic script. I just looked at other comic scripts and kind of
did an analysis
with that for telling a story. So
I mean, it's not really
like
hard. I mean, on 22 pages, if you take like 22 pages, 5 panels a page, that's like roughly 110 panels. If you put more or less, like you're around 100 panels an issue, and then how much story you can pack into that, like 3 to 5 scenes. So you can mathematically break down an issue, and then you can actually navigate your storytelling through that, and it's easier for writing. At least for me, I was like doing those analysis before when I was younger, learning and everything.
I mean, and you can pack a lot of information and a lot of story in like even a 3-panel page or in a splash page or something. It's just
the story will tell you.
And you're right. I mean, it depends on the art. I think the amount of panels really doesn't dictate. Yeah, I really don't think the amount of panels dictates how much story can be told. Because it can be told in a variety. Like, I think you can have, like you said, 3 panels in a page, and you can tell a lot depending on how it's laid out within the story and how it rolls. It's just possible. I just think it's hilarious because, like I said, you got one of the Man, Danny, you're one of the guys that got like what I will call one of the highly revised questionnaires for the first time it's been on the show. And I'm like scrolling up trying to look at something like, well, let me look at the comics real quick. He likes kids and stuff. And then I'm like, dude, really? Tears of Your Enemies filling a waterbed throne? Like, really, Danny? Like, that's what you want.
I have one more. I almost forgot. I have one more question for Danny on the coloring, on the things that are difficult, because this is difficult for me. So I want to when you get a page that has too many rotoscoped and photoshopped imagery, like pulled from photography and everything, and it's kind of like hyper realistic, but in completely black and white art, How do you have problems with that? Like, have you encountered that type of pages?
Actually,
kind of like
that.
Yeah,
But,
I think
that would
be
be
a lot of that.
difficult.
Yeah, it's kind of
that would be difficult to color, like especially if it's. I guess I've never really colored a lot of like hyper realistic type stuff. Like most of the stuff that I've colored has been. I don't know. I always say I like to color comics that look like comics, and like that. Whenever you get into too much realism, it's like just watch a movie,
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to color some stuff like that, but I've never encountered that with any of the stuff that I've colored so far. But I'm not really sure how I would handle that, because a lot of times whenever you get into like if you're trying to color a black and white photo, it's going to be way more difficult, because you're how do you not, with all of the gray tones and things that are going to be in that realistic image, it's kind of a balancing act of how you can color it to where it can be printed and not turn out looking like mud and not looking fuzzy. But
Yeah.
so that would be tough. But yeah, I haven't ran into anything where anybody's had like realistic photos. One thing that I've ran into is kind of interesting to deal with every time is when the person who, if they're digitally inking, when they go in and they like blur certain sections and and they blur the inks, and then you have to try and blend the colors with the blurred inks and like blur it the same amount where you can't tell if they were done separately. That's
difficult.
becomes a little more difficult.
Yeah.
But I always kind of cringe whenever I see pages that have the inks blurred in sections. I'm like, this is going to take like twice or three times as long to color this panel. Like,
yeah,
So
off to
digital
the
inks is a
letterer.
different beast too, right? Like, digital inks, a lot of digital artists, like they won't think that like, I'm just gonna add a little bit of gray airbrushing here and my inks, like to make it, I'm gonna soften this part out, or I'm gonna add some, whatever, some roundness to these, apples that are on the table. I'm gonna airbrush a little bit of a core shadow underneath them, and it looks nice, but they're thinking in black and white because they're drawing in black and white, and they're not thinking that putting a skim of 10%, 15% gray airbrush down on your black lines is just going to create such a headache for the colorist if you're not the guy coloring it yourself. And I think you probably find a big difference from people who draw things by hand versus people who color or draw digitally, because there are those little things that are just built into digital drawing that are so easy, and they're so right there, and they're so at hand that it's hard probably to resist to use them. And so then the colorist gets to kind of have to work around them.
And then, like, it wouldn't be as big of a deal if the colorist, if you're doing it digitally and you're adding the digital gray tones, it wouldn't be anywhere near as difficult if the colorist actually got the file where the inks and the gray tones are broken into different layers.
Yeah.
To where you can separate those out and you can do your color holds and things just on the gray tones, to where you're not trying to fight the gray tones blending into the line work, because you don't want to have the color holds on some stuff you do. And so it would be easier to just lock those
That's
gray
that's
tone
if
layers
you're lucky
and
and
color over it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I've
the
never
artist
had that happen, but
thought about that and prepared the pages for you like that.
Yeah, I've never colored inks that digital inks that weren't my own, that I had like the gray tones and stuff that were broken up into layers. So you always just kind of have to deal with it. But
yeah,
it's an
when someone's
adventure.
doing like washes and things like that, like coloring traditional washes, to me at least, is much easier than coloring the digital washes. Like coloring Mike's washes, like Mike, I always tell him he does all of the hard work for me. Like, I don't have to think about, okay, where's the light source coming from? Like, because he's already figured all of that out with his washes. And so Mike's work is I always find it, it's fun to color. Yeah.
That's what Mike's work is right there, man. I know I ain't two people, but he still gets 2 thumbs up.
When Mike the colorist has to color Mike the artist's work, Mike hates those guys. Mike the colorist hates Mike the inker, and Mike the inker hates Mike the penciler. I just like, my pencils usually have very little to go off of, because the inking is where it all gets done. And for me, that's where all the work is the inks. But then I go into like black and white mode, where I wish there were more black and white comics. All my favorite comics were kind of black and white growing, like Savage Sword of Conan, stuff like that. Like, I loved that. And so you see so much more of the work, you see so much more of the detail, but then you're thinking in those terms, and then I'm not realizing, or I do realize, I'm just hiding from the facts that, like, I'm going to have to color this too. So, like, I recently did a Conan cover where he's in the jungle, and I had to draw all this foliage, and I was drawing it all by hand, and thinking so much of this could be handled digitally. Like, what are you doing? Like, but the perfectionist is where the inker is the perfectionist. The penciler is just the loose concept guy, and then the colorist is just a miserable, unhappy person who has to deal with all of that bad decision making from the
What?
artist.
Yeah, but you can solve a lot of things in color as well when you're doing your own stuff, so you can save some time.
Yeah, if you're smart, and I'm just not. I sabotage myself, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't mean to. I just each process has its own conditions that I have to respect, and each stage is like it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
It has to come out. I completely understand you.
Yeah.
Well, but it's funny too, in what you guys were discussing earlier, as far as the difference between digital and traditional. And I mean, you've got an undo button. There's so many things that are different about traditional art. I think I seen a post earlier from Jimmy Robertson stating something as far as, he was getting annoyed that it was telling him to correct his own art style. And then I know we had a discussion recently. We got a lot of quests that hopefully have all just dropped real, and go check them out, folks. I don't remember which one that was, and whatever. There's been a lot, but where it was ostensibly where they had gone to using digital too much, and when they went back to traditional, they were like, "Ooh, I need to go back and practice this," because it's one of those things, like if you don't keep that part of yourself sharp, it dulls quickly. Or 100%. I don't know this from experience, just to be clear.
That's normal.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's interesting, man. I wonder.
Yeah, whenever I try to do anything traditionally, like, I'm always, if I'm doing something traditionally, like I'm drawing, and then I'm trying to do like 2-finger taps on the piece of paper.
Yeah, I'm trying
swipes
to zoom in,
and stuff, and it's like I can't. Like, it's just out of habit.
And I'm pretty sure, thank you for saying exactly that, Danny, because I'm pretty sure it was Jordan, and he said exactly that, as far as he would tap the page. Like, which...
Yeah.
It happens. Or you want to press undo.
Yep.
It's different. I mean... But you had, like, people had those same things when they were like doing traditional work as well. If you were, for example, inking with quill and ink tube, and then you went over to the liner, and then you draw with the line, and you go like you wanna tap in, but you don't have to because you're doing a liner.
Yeah.
So it just it's the habit thing.
Has anybody ever been out like drawing in front of somebody and went trying to undo something on it, and the guy went, "What did you just do?"
Like every time that I was drawing something at Granite, someone asked, like I kept like trying to tap the page or like swipe the page, or it's just it's out of, I don't know, it's like muscle memory at that point.
I had a different thing. That's something that I caught myself, like when I was looking at the photos and videos, like when I was drawing on paper, like I took a liner and then I put off the holder, and then I was like holding it like this, like it was there, like subconscious, like I could have put it on a table and everything, like, but I was holding the cap in my hand and I was doing everything with that, like, and I was like watching the photo, like, why am I doing that? Like, totally,
I love
like
that, because I think that's something that most people would never think of, as far as, because it's something that as artists, you guys do so much, so it does get ingrained in your brain. And when someone that is in no way, shape, or form within that medium, or even, I mean, if you deal with as many artists as I have or more, I would hope you are like, oh, that makes sense, because at that point you're like, I've heard it from enough people, man. That's just facts, and it's what happens, whatever. But I do think, like, the standard individual, like I said, I can only imagine the strange looks you got at GraniteCon, Danny, when you're trying to tap a page to undo the line you just made. Like, I assume you baffled a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which
they probably just thought it was like a nervous tick or something. Like, they really wouldn't know what exactly I was doing unless they've used the programs.
Yeah, that's just even funnier to think that, like, you've got this person in front of you and they see you do that, and I could definitely see that's probably like they could take it as a nervous tick, and it's not the fact that you're nervous, it's the fact that you're annoyed you couldn't undo that by tapping the actual page twice because that's what you wanted to do. And like I said, I mean, this is a conversation, I can't tell you how many artists that this is.
It's just a
know
thing. I
do
mean,
this.
when you're
It's
doing
so funny.
something like your whole life, and you have all your like habits and routines and everything, it just engraves in your body, and you just do it. You're not aware of it anymore, and just like it's a flow.
I don't want to know how many things I do like that people that think are weird, right? But let's not get into that anymore, man. Because like I said,
No,
that happens.
Jay, you're perfectly normal.
Yeah, and again, Vlad, you're the only person I've ever heard say that to me. You said it earlier.
There you go.
actually
I know
said it on the
that's
show
why I
now.
said it. So you have
And
it
I'm
on
like,
recording.
I've never heard that. Vlad, thanks for actually letting me have that on record. I appreciate it because, like I said, it's not. I literally in my 40 years of life don't
But then
ever
again,
think I've
normal
heard
is
those words.
relative, so that's
Yeah,
okay.
right. But let's get into something really not normal because, like I said, I really, I don't know. Did you look through the questionnaire that Danny got, Vlad?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
did you
did.
notice that it was a little different?
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
saw some different questions. I started asking and then you stopped me.
Well, no,
so...
not that. That one's already. That one's always been there, man. And you can't. But he did make.
Well,
it
I
where
asked. I wanted to ask what was the toy Danny wanted as a kid and
Well,
still wants as an adult.
but that's always been on the questionnaire because I use it for the bit at the end, and you really made that bit hard to use for that. I'm still going to use it though, Danny. But that's neither here nor there. But one of the questions that
Okay,
I
which
had,
one? Then you know,
well, no,
favorite
but
song.
the one
Which
that I
one?
added, right, is something important that you never really get to talk about. Do you see what he answered for that, Vlad? Third question.
What question again? I'm looking. What question?
What is something that is important to you that you never really talk about?
Okay, let me see.
I think it's like the fourth, maybe fifth question down, maybe third. I don't know, right in there. I'm thinning things out so I can do this proper when I do what I do it to do. Mike knows what's coming. You should too, Vlad.
Oh, the importance of people filming toddlers saying curse words to my mental health.
Yeah. What? Danny, I really like what?
I think we need clarification on this one.
Yes.
So there's just videos of like little kids just catching their parents by surprise, and they're like barely saying any words, but then they're like, you know, just saying curse words, and there's like compilations of them put together to where you have like one video that has 20 different clips of like toddlers saying cuss words, and it's the funniest thing ever. And if I'm in a bad mood or having a bad day, if I see one of those videos, like,
okay, well, that
cracks me up, and
that's okay. I mean,
all right.
Grandparents always like, you know.
I've sent a lot of them to Mike.
Yeah. I like the one where it's a I guess he's an English kid and he's a little blonde kid looking out the window and he's like, "It's a fucking goat," and his mother's like, No, it's just a goat.
No, it's a goat.
No, it's a fucking goat.
It's a fucking goat.
With the nice London accent.
Yeah.
Yes.
It would have only been funnier if there were two goats out there and it actually was. You know what I mean? It's like, no, Mom, really? It's like, oh, well, son, you're right, but don't say that like that. All right. I truly did need clarification on that because I was like, what the hell's Danny talking about, man? Like,
yeah. Like, I don't even know how you put that into words, but
yeah, well, you did.
You did well when you were able to verbalize it. Now, I mean, so fair enough. Yeah. So
you coined that sentence, man.
What's your beef with the spirit?
The Will Eisner's spirit?
No, yeah, I want to know what Danny's beef with the spirit movie is.
I'm just a really big fan of newspaper comics, the comics, and the movie. Like, I don't know, like I love Frank Miller's stuff, but they made the movie as a Sin City version of the spirit, and
In a way, yeah.
I don't know. It just didn't feel like the Spirit. Like it didn't feel like. Yeah, I mean, it'd be like trying to do Dick Tracy, but doing it all in black and white and like red.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't make. I don't know. It wouldn't make as much sense. The tone of the movie wasn't there, and when I saw that the movie was being made, like I'm enough of a fan of the series that I was really excited to see that. And I was at the theater first day it came out, and I left. I was like, oh, like it was a cool movie, but it didn't really feel like the Spirit. Like it didn't feel like they captured the essence of that character, of that storyline. And there's so much that they could have pulled from that storyline. And they got into the femme fatale, they got into some of them in the movie, but there's so many good stories from the Spirit that they could have done that just would have made for a better movie. Like it didn't really feel like that comic. It felt like they were making a movie with the character, but they didn't really
It felt
make the
different.
movie of the character or
Oh,
of the series,
and
if that makes sense.
And
It just it had a
yeah, and
different.
just to clarify for everyone out there, that is a
And I
question
think
on the questionnaire.
I think my
that
beef
is-
with it was. Yeah, I think my beef with it was just that it was more like being disappointed because I was so excited and so hyped for the movie. And like, I mean, I had bought like what was it, like a 1/16 figure with like the actual, like, I mean, it had the actual fabric clothing and everything. It was like a 12-inch figure. And like, I bought a bunch of stuff like that just out of pure excitement that they were actually making the Spirit into the movie. It'd be like making the Phantom into a movie, and and completely ignoring the entire like vibe of the comic or the spirit
Phantom was not
of
bad.
the comic. Like yeah, I mean the movie. The movie is an okay movie. Like it's not a bad movie. It just doesn't feel like the Spirit. It was just I think it was more. It's less of a beef with it and more of how much of a letdown it was that it wasn't, I guess, what I had built it up to be when I went into the theater, what I was, hoping it was going to be as a fan of that series.
Yeah, well, it did went more like a spin-off of Sin City than, Spirit on its own.
And that's
Kind
just
of
to
like-
clarify for
they were
everyone
kind
out
of
there.
riding that wave of Sin City's popularity.
And to
Yeah.
clarify for everyone out there, though, the question that we're referring to that was answered in the questionnaire is what comic book film did the comic book the least justice? You know what I mean? What comic book film did that comic just the worst as far as towards the comic? That doesn't necessarily mean we're saying that film is bad, because there's been so many different answers to that.
No,
Okay. Sometimes to be real clear though, I'm pretty sure the person that answered that was saying the film was bad too, right? But that's neither here nor there. But it is, it's living up to the comic.
I've got the Blu-ray. I own the digital version. Like I've gone back and watched it several times, and it's an enjoyable movie. It's just it doesn't feel like the Spirit. Like
Yeah,
I just don't
it
feel like
it
did
didn't
that story
adapt
justice. Yeah, it wasn't a
too
good
good from the comics, yeah.
adaptation of the comic, but it was a pretty good movie.
I don't care. Those toilet jokes
It
from
can be
Samuel L.
both.
Jackson, if nothing else, are totally worth watching the Spirit. And that's
Here's a
all.
question for everyone.
Like,
Yeah.
like the I think it's the last fight, if memory serves me proper. It's been a while since I've seen the Spirit between Samuel L. Jackson and the Spirit, and he's like beating him with a toilet. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I'm sorry.
I think, yeah.
He's got some fantastic one-liners in there, man. But I personally have never read much of the Spirit, so as far as in comparison to the comic, to the movie, I don't have one, to be real honest. But if I'd read every
It's one of
comic
those
book,
things that if you run across any of those like hardcover collections that have the early newspaper comics into the first the kitchen sink comics, like they're a lot of fun to read. And just like everything, there's so many things that's strong about the series, the writing, but the art, like
Yeah, Will
I've always been a
Eisner.
huge fan of the way that they incorporated the Spirit logo into like the buildings and the opening credits page and stuff like that. Just there's a lot of things that I just really enjoy about those books. And I at one point I had most of the kitchen sink comics and then got rid of them because of just space. And then I've bought several of the hardcover collections that those are just easier to, you know, just have them on a bookshelf and get them down whenever I want to read them. But I tend to like I still collect a lot of comics, but whenever I read them, it's usually either like in a graphic novel or a digital format. You know, there's some stuff that I read monthly whenever I get comics. Just like a lot of times I'll buy the actual comic and then I'll buy the digital version just because it's easier for me to sit down with an iPad and read it whenever I've got kids like, you know, climbing on me and stuff where I'm not having to be so careful.
Danny,
like
I will end this quest right now. No, did you just say you prefer to read it digitally as opposed to a fly? I am, and I'm just kidding when I say it.
I don't
You look
prefer.
offended. You looked offended for a sec. Like
No,
he just really
it's
said he
valid.
did
I mean,
this. Like he said it like
he buys the print copy for the collection and he buys the digital for reading. I mean, that's okay.
I don't know. It's just me. And
you have two different versions to read if you want to, you know, experience.
But I would prefer to read the actual comic. Like there's nothing, you can't capture the feel of sitting down with an actual comic, but I have more opportunity to sit in the recliner while I'm, you know, rocking my 4-year-old to sleep and read on an iPad than I do to sit down at a table and actually flip through a comic. Like it's more of a time thing than anything else.
I have a 5-year-old, was not aware until this moment, Danny. You had a 4-year-old. I retract everything I said as far as like I won't give you no more grief over it. I won't. So never mind.
It's just a matter of like Like if I can, you know, sit down at the table or at my desk or sit down like on the bed and open up a comic, like that's what I would rather do. But whenever you have to find time, I can grab and I can, you know, have them on my iPad and then read them wherever, you know, and not have to worry about taking care of the actual comic because I'm very much a very particular comic collector. I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to open the book all the way because you don't want to actually get spine creases. You know.
It's so funny. I used to be like that, but then
like I said, print for the collection, the digital for read.
I started running this show, and if you go through like every intro, now you can just literally see me take a comic and normally just wing it. I think there's like once where I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna throw that one. We're gonna."
That's not gonna be a mint condition anymore. I mean, you opened it anyway.
Well, no, dude, I can't tell you how many comics I have literally thrown. I've probably thrown at least 75 to 100 comics, 100 different comics, you know. But a lot of them, like if there's a graphic novel hardcover, you know, like I could throw that on, and it's hitting my bed. You know what I mean? I'm not like throwing it into the wall. So if I got a graphic and I'm just throwing it to my bed, chances of it having a problem with that are like, I don't know. There's like a 5 to 10% chance it might hit something wrong.
But I don't do that with graphic novels. You know, if I'm buying a graphic novel, I'm buying it to read. I don't care if there's spine creases or anything like that because I'm going to read it a lot. Like, but when it's the actual physical comic, like actually having the comic, I don't want to, you know, open it up and like flatten it out.
You remember when Batman came out 1989, Tim Burton's, when they did an adaptation of a comic?
Yeah.
Well, here is my copy.
Mike, that is beautiful.
Oh, thanks, man. Oh, look at that. That's a beauty. I love that.
That's the way my TMNT comics used to look.
It's still readable, and I still go over it like 35 years later.
That's the best.
Yeah, I had a copy of TMNT number 3, the first one that I ever bought. That was the first comic that I ever bought, but it looked like that. I mean, it was falling apart. It had tape on the spine to try and help the pages stay together. Also had a copy of a couple of the Tick comics that looked like that I just read so many times that they were just falling apart. But yeah, several of the TMNT comics that I had looked like that. And then, over the years, I've bought nice copies of them and bought slabs and, just
Oh, I know.
to collect.
Oh,
But
oh,
And it fits perfectly in a meat bag.
yeah.
all I know is in a meat. All I know is you just made
Yeah.
something pop in my head, Danny. Because I don't think if this has been done, please someone correct me, and I'm gonna go seek it out. Has there ever been a crossover between the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Tick?
Not unless it was on Things Are Getting Sketchy. That's
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I need that comic book just so it can be like Michelangelo. It can be like Cowabunga, and then Tick Spoon, like just for that moment. If nothing else, I would buy the hardcover graphic. I don't even care. Like I need that moment in my life. I'm sorry. It makes me realize like how great of an interaction between those 5 characters could you have? Because
Yeah.
the
Well,
Tick being, oh,
with all the Turtles crossovers they've had this year for the 40th anniversary, I'm almost surprised they haven't done more more crossovers with other comics. Like, we've had the Turtles have crossed over, with Usagi Yojimbo and Archie and all these different things. But like this year, we had Naruto, which was an
Power
interesting thing.
Rangers, Motu.
Yeah, Masters of the Universe. Yeah, like there's been some amazing crossover. But the
Well,
Tick
Mike,
is great. The Tick's a great
you're
figure.
in
The
that.
TMNT Ghostbusters crossovers
Yeah.
are just
And
phenomenal.
Stranger
There's 2
Things,
of them, and they're
TMNT,
so
Stranger-
good.
No, Mike.
Yeah,
Mike,
Stranger
you're
Things.
in that whole world, Mike. You tell them that I said that there needs to be like me saying is going to get them to do it. But I really think, in all sincerity, I mean, the Tick had a successful enough TV show to get 2 seasons here recently on Amazon. You know what I mean? And I just really think that the economy you could get between those, like Arthur.
I mean,
and the
that's a
Tick.
successful show if it got to a season 2. I mean, that's like
And it's actually a good
it
show.
was-
Like,
yeah,
it's a lot
yeah.
of fun.
Yeah. And dude, just the interactions you could get between the Turtles and the Tick and Arthur.
Oh yeah.
That's comedy gold, man.
Yeah, it's sitting right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the Toxic Avengers and the Captain Planeteers. Like, they could have crossed those over and had the most environmentally friendly, like, comic series ever.
Get Stark Swamp Thing. Yep.
By the way,
And
have you seen Joker
2 different
too?
audiences. Instantly.
No, I haven't.
That I think,
Jay?
well, because I think in a lot of crossovers, like that obviously is the goal, is to get 2 different audiences to read the same book, right? I think there are instances where that works, and I think there are instances where that doesn't work, obviously. Like I think with the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. That's a great example of it working to a great degree. You know what I mean? The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Charo, I'm sure that sold like hotcakes, right?
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know. There's the Turtles just have their own crazy huge fandom, and then when you start to cross it over with, like, I had no idea how big or crazy Naruto was until I had to start doing research to draw that stuff, and it's massive. It's like crazy.
With my 9-year-old, like, that's kind of how TMNT was whenever I was his age. Like, Naruto's like that.
Yeah,
big.
that's like one of the top 5 manga.
Yeah, and that's what they're all into, is like they're into Naruto and One Piece and Demon Slayer and like all of this, like,
Dragon Ball
anime,
Z.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Z, like
Chainsaw Man.
anime manga stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does seem to have taken over. So I do think within that, I'm curious, you guys just looking at the comic industry as it is. I mean, especially Mike, because you had this happen recently when you were working on Naruto and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Do you think that things like that are likely to continue based on the fact that the manga and American, well, look, the Japanese and the American comic book market, I don't care. I don't know why we call them market. There's part of my brain that's like, why do we call them mangas? They're just Japanese comics. That's all they are.
Because that's their name in Japanese, man.
Yeah, that's their name in Japanese. Yeah,
well,
that's
whatever.
You have to
I'm
read
not
them
Japanese.
That's their
right?
name. It's like you have a comic, you have a manga.
Yeah.
It's the, it's kind of like a style and genre. Like you have superhero, you have sci-fi, you have manga, you have comics, you have bandit design, which is French comics. You have fumetti, which is Italian comics.
Mm.
You have comics with an X, which is underground comics. So you have a lot of names.
It's true. Yep.
Web comics you have now. Now you have verticals, which is on global comics.
Vlad's like, look, let me just hurt your head more and divide it into 60. like that was rude.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
That was
it's
really,
just,
really rude,
you have
Vlad.
graphic novels. We forgot about that one.
It's a comic.
Yeah, it's in movies, a movie as well. So still.
Vlad, is it past your bedtime?
Yeah, it's almost. Yeah. Have you seen Joker? You didn't respond.
No, I haven't seen Joker. I haven't seen that
the
one.
second one now.
I like the first
the
one.
new one?
But,
Yeah, the first.
Everybody
one.
liked the first one. The other one, the other one, I don't know.
I mean, I know
Yeah,
I know some very toxic masculinity people who are like, I can't watch a musical. That's crazy. What do I look like? A man that wears a dress? Like, you get this kind of weird bravado. I can't watch a musical. That's crazy. That's what girls do. And I'm watching these conversations happen, and I just think it's hysterical. Like, I thought the idea. I haven't seen it. I'd like to see it to make my own call.
Musical is actually a good part.
It's getting like universally panned, but I mean, I don't really care. I enjoy both those actors, and I'm willing to take a spin on that one. I like the first one enough that I feel like the second one's worth a shot.
It's a complex movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it whenever it comes out to where I can stream it. I mean, I'm sure I'll probably end up, buying it whenever it's on like Amazon or something. It's just difficult to actually get over to the theater. And
same here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
look,
the biggest thing. I would watch a lot more movies like if I could just get to the theater and have the time to go and sit down and watch something.
you have a 4-year-old, and as a
Yeah.
father with a 5-year-old,
4 and 9,
I
so,
fully
yeah.
relate, right? But Mike, all those guys that said that as far as the musical, tell them to shut up and go watch Sweeney Todd, and I'll introduce them to a demon
this
barber.
is it. Yeah.
All right,
I mean,
Or like Nightmare Before Christmas.
that's thank you.
Great. I
Another
like
like,
it, man.
Well, that just cultural
Oliver
limiting
and Company.
belief. Maybe it's local culture, maybe it's trending stuff. Who knows?
Like, look, I'm not a big musical guy. I'll be real honest. Like, that's not my thing. But like, if it's a good movie, it's a good movie. And if it's like Sweeney Todd, I love that flick. And it's
Well, the thing with the Joker is that it's exactly that. It's the Joker. Like it's the second part is extremely unique, and it's extremely complex, and it's a different thing for everybody. It's not a movie that you can pinpoint and put it, and it's really like it spin a lot of story into the masses, and people didn't react quite well on the first ball. So it's not one of those movies that you could just it's not a popcorn entertainment.
No, have you seen it?
Yep, I did.
Okay, because like I said, I've seen and heard a lot of things about it. I'm kind of curious, but I think comic book movies will always be something that people will be heavily opinionated about it because
I'm just curious. I mean,
dude, I haven't seen it, so I have no opinion. Like, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I've got Danny's got a 4-year-old. I got a 5-year-old. Like, I made a special point to go see Deadpool and Wolverine because I am the Wade Wilson of hip hop, and I run the questionnaire, and I was like, I will not have this movie spoiled for me, so I know for a fact, based on, I do this show, I better go see it Friday, right? And
here is a comparison between Deadpool and Joker, because Deadpool gave audiences exactly what they wanted. Like they gave everything to them. Like Joker did a complete opposite thing. I'm not going to say anything, but they did a completely different thing with the Joker from the Wolverine. So
now
I haven't seen either one of those. No, I haven't seen Deadpool, Wolverine, or Joker. I have watched The Penguin and the Agatha All Along. I've been watching those, but
and
I haven't
the
watched
new Hellboy,
how are those?
Like,
I need to catch up on those.
I like.
I need to catch up on the Penguin.
I enjoy
I've watched like the first episode.
Yeah,
and
the
a half.
Penguin. Oh man, the Penguin it's really really solid. Like this last episode that they had, there was just some moments in it that were just like you're like, wow, I can't believe they actually put that into a comic book show. Like that's pretty wild. And and the Penguin is good because it's like it's pulling a lot of stuff from because a lot of things pull from like the Long Halloween and Dark Victory and a lot of that like Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale,
Yeah.
those stories. And so those are some of my favorite Batman stories. So just seeing that kind of come to life and just the grittiness of, it's a kind of a mobster drama type thing. And then on the other hand, you've got like Agatha All Along that is more like lighthearted and comedy based and both of them are really good. And then Mike and I both have watched the new Hellboy movie, and it was really enjoyable. Like,
yeah, I need to. Hey, Mike, are you as behind as I am? Because, like,
you mean on Marvel movies and stuff?
Yeah, well,
I haven't seen Hellboy as well, or Agatha All Along, or Penguin. So I
haven't consumed 5 seconds of Marvel material since they used AI in that Secret Invasion intro. I haven't. I just decided that was a switching off point for me from Marvel stuff, which is a shame because I'm sure that Agatha All Along is good because there were elements of WandaVision that I really enjoyed. I think the thing I enjoyed about WandaVision the most was how much my wife hated it, though, and how much she would rant. She watched it, but she would just go off about it, and it was amazing. Like that was the most entertaining part for me. But
wait, can you bring your wife on? Hey, Mike, can you bring your wife on real quick? I need to know what enraged her so much about WandaVision.
Oh, there was just too many things. Yeah, just too many things. I don't know. It was a while ago. I've kind of maybe shut it out now, but yeah, she's had to suffer through a lot of those. To her, they're all exactly the same movie. Every Marvel movie is exactly the same.
Kind of are,
and they kind of are. And I'm gonna lift my Marvel ban when when the Fantastic Four movie comes out, only because I need verification that still there will not be a good Fantastic Four movie while I live here on planet Earth. And I'm willing to give it a shot because I like who I've seen cast so far. I don't know what to make of the Robert Downey Jr. Doom reveal, as I don't know what they're doing with that, or if it's even going to be involved with the Fantastic Four movie. I just kind of want to see them do Ben Grimm properly, and I like the guy they have cast to play him. I think he's great, and I like Pedro, and I don't know. I think he's an interesting choice for Reed Richards, and I'm willing to give it a shot. But that's probably the only thing I'm gonna.
Did they said who they casted for Silver Surfer?
No, but I did hear that they're doing a gender band.
Yeah, it was Anna Taylor-Joy from the Futurosa movie.
Whoa,
Surfer? Yeah.
Oh, I'm pretty
people
sure
got so mad,
man. Yeah.
Yeah, people got so mad.
I would say that I kind of have the same feeling. Like it kind of feels like a lot of those movies are the same. It's just the same formula over and over. And I think that's what was so refreshing about the Agatha All Along is that it's not it doesn't feel like anything with a Marvel. Like it doesn't feel like a Marvel show or a Marvel movie because it's so different. And which I think the last thing that I had watched before Agatha All Along was probably the Infinity War Endgame movies. Like I can't remember watching much after. We watched Shang-Chi. I can't remember if that came before or after.
I watched a bit of Shang-Chi on the airplane once. I didn't get through all of it. I missed the last 20 minutes because the flight landed. But I saw that one, and I saw. I didn't hate that Doctor Strange one. The multiverse of madness, whatever.
Yeah, I watched that.
I didn't hate it only because there was the little surprises were fun. It just felt like, I don't know, it was kind of like a delicious bag of Doritos that it doesn't have a lot of good nutritional content, but it was an enjoyable crunchy thing to eat. But
I've
don't
watched that
know.
Shang-Chi movie so many times because my 9-year-old had just got to where that's what he wanted to watch every night whenever he went to sleep. For
Oh yeah, I
months.
got you.
And so we watched that movie so many times. And I mean, there's a lot of cool fight scenes in it, and like a
Yeah.
lot of, I mean, it feels like a kung fu movie in the Marvel universe,
But hey,
which is what it
Abomination in
should
it,
have
which I thought was
been.
cool.
But yeah.
Well, look, if
Yeah.
we're gonna get this deep in the MCU and just start dissecting it as we have been, man, I just gotta say, like, a pleasant surprise last year to me with Werewolf by Night.
I was just gonna say that's I think
Yeah.
the last
I
Disney
watched
Plus thing
that.
I watched of theirs. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think I haven't watched a lot of the series on Disney Plus. Like I haven't watched the Hawkeye series. I did
No.
watch
Oh.
the Echo series. I enjoyed that because I'll pretty much watch anything that's in the Daredevil universe.
Sure.
But like I haven't seen Eternals or the last Ant-Man movie, and a few of the last movies that they came out with. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and watch them. Most of the time, whenever I do get to watch them is when one of my kids gets into them, and we watch them a lot. And they just haven't gotten into those yet. But yeah, Werewolf by Night, that one was cool.
It was
And,
good. Yeah.
It was,
like I
it was
didn't
refreshing.
I didn't watch the Secret Wars, or was it Secret Wars, or whichever one it
Wait, if
was.
you've watched Secret Wars
Invasion.
already, Danny, if you've already seen Secret Wars, first, Marvel's probably going to come after you and shoot you when I release this episode. Secondly,
Secret
could you
Invasion.
somehow,
It's one of the
could you get that to me before?
Yeah, but see,
We
I've
watched,
never been like a Marvel guy. Like I read Daredevil, and that's about as far into Marvel as I went. I was always like, I just had more DC stuff available to me as I was growing up. I read more DC, more like Dark Horse, and then I read TMNT stuff, and it was what was available, what the shops had, and they had the Marvel stuff. I just never. I guess it was the people that worked there were really into DC and Dark Horse, so that's what they were selling you on. And so yeah.
Let me throw this out there, man, and then I think we're gonna have Vlad passing out here in a little while. He's like having to go. He's having to go get coffee or maybe something from maybe a little bit stronger. I don't know, but I mean it's only like 6 a.m. over there right now. Why do you think it is within comics people specifically seem to gravitate either towards Marvel or DC? Like you don't see. I can't think of many people ever that walk down the middle line, and stick to where they man, I love Marvel and DC. People always quickly make a choice between the two. What do you think that driving force is that causes that in the community of comics?
There's a bit of tribalism, I think, a little bit.
I think that, I think it's a little bit of tribalism. I think it's a little bit of stylistically they're different, and like storytelling wise they're different. And when you get into one, like all the series are kind of tied together, like into this overall universe. And so whenever you start reading, like if you're into DC and you start reading anything outside of Batman, you start getting into Justice League and the characters that branch out from that. And I was always a big fan of Green Arrow, and you start reading that and Green Lantern and Flash, and then start reading Justice League, like all of them kind of tie together. And at least for me, like I couldn't afford to be into both Marvel and DC. Like if I wanted to be able to read and understand the universe, like I couldn't afford to like buy into both sides. And so I think it was just whichever
that's
one
what separates
was the one I was going to be into.
Yeah. I think it's funny, Danny. I think you just mentioned the thing that probably made everyone choose, because I don't know how you would collect both Marvel and DC, especially if you're you're younger, because that's a massive.
I don't know how
I can only imagine trying to do that.
But that's pretty much in US. That's the US thing.
I get annoyed now with like the modern runs of DC and Marvel, because how can you afford to even read a series when in order to read one story you've got to buy like 10 comics a month because they're all tied
Yeah.
together and everything is a big event to get you to buy. Like if I want to pick up a Batman comic, like I would like to be able to buy Batman and read the issues in the consecutive order and understand the story.
Well,
Not have
that's
to buy
not
Batman
happening
nightly,
anymore.
You know, Batman Incorporated and Catwoman, and you know, you get to a point where you're like, okay, now I'm spending like $150 a month just to be able to read one story, and it's like that on both sides. I think that's why I've, in the last like decade or so, I've gone more toward reading the indie comic stuff, because you can actually read the comic monthly and understand the actual story without having to buy into so many different series and collect so many different series.
The world's being built on the spot. You don't have this pre-existing history. Like I mean, I think for me, what burned me out as a young comic book reader was every year both Marvel and DC would have the big summer events where you would have to buy every title. And, it started out with, like Crisis on Infinite Earths and Secret Wars, which as a kid I loved, and I ate it all up. But as I was getting older, getting into high school, getting into college, like I was pretty much finished collecting comics in college because I was just a broke ass, college student at the time. But it was mainly because, of these big events. So when I got back into comics, it was like Kevin Smith's run on Green Arrow that kind of brought me back when he brought Ollie Queen back to life. Like that brought me kind of back into comics, tiptoed in, because I was a huge Green Arrow fan, and I just got lost. I got lost in the madness of all the stuff that was happening at DC and Marvel, kind of from about 1996 till about 2005 or 2002 or whatever. I just kind of switched off because it was just too much. And now I only read Conan, or I'll buy the occasional one shot of something that a friend of mine has worked on or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'll buy indie books off of people's tables, and I read Conan is the only, like I'm going to the shop tomorrow to buy Conan, and I'm excited about it because I'm reading one comic. I mean, there's a couple of crossover books now, but they're still Conan books. It's still related. Yet the Conan the Barbarian series is still kind of a standalone thing, and the Savage Sword of Conan is just short stories and things. So, but it's a character that I love, and I get excited every month to go to the comic shop once a month to get that one comic that I get, or that one or two copies that I get, and it's great. You know what I mean? It's an affordable hobby, and I'm legit excited about it because of the property's in very good hands, very good creative team. Even with the shifting artists, it's never a bad shift. It's always one great artist shifting to another great artist, back to that same great artist originally, and it's just a marvelous book, and pretty much the only thing I'm reading you can get at a comic store these days.
That's funny, man. Like, because look, I'll go and read, like I'll grab just the graphic of like a big Marvel event. You know what I mean? Like I read Blood Hunt per issue, and that's because like I the only two Marvel characters I adamantly keep track of anymore, and I wouldn't even say adamantly because oh my god, they dropped like 2 Deadpool books, and I was like, I'm not getting those. I'm not getting them.
Yeah.
I don't care. Venom War, that's awesome. I know he's got Princess, that's awesome. But I'm reading the primary book. This is too many. It's literally too many books a month.
It's too much.
Yeah, and then I kept track of Blade. And Blade, you catch Blade in one book a month, and that's it.
And then you switch to DC because you want to change, and you see like they put like 20-something Batmans this year.
I'm not, dude. I've got the All In special. I haven't read it yet, but I mean, I can only go in and read those specials, like those big events, like as just the primary story arcs, because I've read Marvel my whole life, so it's real hard. Like I can get that primary story and be like, oh well, okay, I know like that little thing happened over in this issue and that, but it's not really the whole primary story, so I can get the context of the story from that, so it doesn't really bother me, but I very much have gone to getting the smaller things. But the point that I'm really getting within this, Mike, is you say people should dodge the corporations and go get Rebel Girls.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, support your indie guys, because that's where your fresh ideas are coming from. There's no expectation to go and read 70 years or get the wiki page on 70 years of what happened before Rebel Girls. You're watching Danny build the world right there. It's like when I worked on Dodge, I only had 4 issues of retcon to read from Matt's previous series, just to introduce the characters that I would be handling and taking my own, taking his characters out for a spin in my own way. And but building my own world too, building my own, building the atmosphere around them as they move and interact in this environment that I'm creating. Like, anyone can pick up Dodge and just read it. It just feels like a kind of like a weird horror movie, or something like that. And Rambo meets, the Wolfman kind of vibe,
Yeah.
right? Hellboy meets G.I. Joe, basically, is kind of what it is. And yeah, I just love that with Danny. I mean, I love that. I love what's happening. I love the fresh new ideas, and like, not to shine him up too much because he's on the show tonight, but like, Danny wrote this script. Like, he had this idea for this comic book. He wrote it. He pitched it. It got picked up. Like first swing at the bat. You know what I mean? And it's kind of incredible. And he found an amazing artist to draw it, a guy who's fucking fast and good and eager, and it's just an amazing thing. Like when he was sending me concept sketches when the comic was coming together, I was still drawing Dodge, and I was like, man, if I had just a fraction of this young artist's speed and hunger, because I'm kind of burnt out at this point, but like, this guy is like, he's alive. Like, comics make this guy come to life. And Danny pitches an idea at him, and next thing you know, here's 12 character designs that are in Danny's inbox the next, like, that evening or the next morning. And he's like, I can't believe this dude did these drawings already. And like, that's the shit that really excites me when you see, when you're touching, you're connecting those wires, you know what I mean, and you get these big sparks happening. Like, that's exciting shit. So just like, not to steal Danny's story away from him, but like sitting next to him at Granite, meeting him for the first time after hanging out online for a couple of years and working on projects together. We're at a Turtles convention, the biggest Turtles convention there is. And 40th anniversary of the Turtles. Eastman is there. The Mirage Studios are there. Like, everyone, Ben Bishop, everyone working on The Last Ronin is there. And there's Danny, and he's selling out of his Rebel Girls comics. Like, to me, that is a fucking fairy tale story. Like, that is an unbelievably awesome thing to have sat next to and witnessed, because it was truly,
it was surprising. It was surprising, and I didn't expect them to go like. I mean, I shipped a Diamond distributor's box of Rebel Girls comics up there, and I brought 12 copies home with me, and like, I was just shocked. Like, that was kind of the spark that got me to, back to writing this current one-shot script that, he's starting to work on the interior art tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll probably have the first page. Like, he usually, he's a British artist. So, but the way that the time zones work, I usually wake up in the morning whenever he's drawing the book, and I have the concept sketch for a page that I look at. And, I've never really told him anything like, oh, you need to change this. It's always just, hey, that looks great. And then a few hours later, I'll have the ink page. And like, he's on fire.
And hey, for everyone
really,
out there,
really
I want to let
quick.
you know, there's a link in the description. You can go check out Danny and find Rebel Girls Swear. Hopefully, is there a spot online they can purchase this, Danny?
Yeah.
All
They're
right.
still available.
I wanted to make sure before I put my foot in my mouth, man. I do that often enough. I try not to do it on the show.
Yeah, 1 through 3 is it's sold out at the distributor level, so you can't get those through Diamond anymore. But KingSpotShop.com still has copies of 1 through 3 and just the various covers. There's some of the covers that sold out at the publisher level, but most of them are still available. And then, on my website, I have them as well. But there's more copies available on KingSpot's website.
Well, both those websites are there as well as Mike's, right? So, like I said, dodge the major corporations. Go get yourself of that, as well as some Rebel Girls, man. That's what you do, right? But I want to let you all know out there, man, right? If you've enjoyed this quest, right, got a couple things you can get for Danny, man. Danny, I'm just gonna say, right, like, that's a tricky one, man. I don't like so So we're gonna get him the Alabama white thing, right? Send that his way, right? Right. And
Yeah.
I don't even feel right saying that one. Vlad, maybe I should have just let you ask that question. Right? Because normally I would say, have them with that favorite toy. But I don't, man, how about just they got like 2 inbox Imperial AT-AT, like the original Star Wars ones for you, man. I apologize. That's terrible, dude, that you lost it like that. But just he's got 2 of them for you, man. Just original in the box, the OG ones. Don't ask how he got it, man. George Lucas might have had to gotten stabbed once, right? But that's not
Unboxed, yeah.
All right, right. With a big old plate of all kinds of different flavors, tacos, right, and a couple Reese's cups for dessert, right? For them to just sit, chill, hang out, and play Star Wars toys, taco party. That's what's up, right? Now, if you haven't enjoyed this quest, right, firstly, I'm going to keep asking it. Why are you here, right? Especially this one. This has been like an especially long one for you to hang around all the way to the end. Like, if you're still hanging here and you didn't like it, go doom scroll, okay? Like, I would rather you doom scroll than hate watch. I really think that would probably, and I'm not down for doom scrolling. I'm not like doom scrolling's terrible. I won't encourage it, but I would encourage doom scrolling. I would think before I would probably encourage hate watching. I don't know. I would have to have Harvard go do a study on both, and I can't get them to do that because I'm not the dean. So that's neither here nor there. I don't encourage either. But if you didn't, and for some reason Danny's just annoyed the crap out of you, and you are still here for whatever reason, right? And what I want you to do, right, is send a ballast. Man, sorry, you picked a terrible creature to send, right? Right? Just smelling of green turnips, yeah, written by Mr. Matt, yeah, as he brings you all the Reese's, but none of the circle ones, man. You don't get no circle ones, right? And that's what they're gonna do. And he's gonna be singing, "Take me to," I don't know where Mr. Matt's gonna take you, dude. You really had a problem with him though, which I find kind of funny. But him riding a backless, I don't like that. Just don't seem like a good time, man. But again, that's only if you didn't enjoy the quest, man. And I hope you did. Like I said, check all the links in the descriptions. There's plenty of information, man. You see Mike draw this beautiful swamp thing again on the show. If you go way, way, way back, you can actually see him draw this swamp thing too. But that was the first pan con that ended up just me and Mike and Jay, and that's a funny story. And there's other pan cons, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, besides that, right, for all y'all out there, I just want you to do 3 more things, right? 1, I drop a thumb, but give it that thumbs up anyways, right? 2, always get your comic on. And 3, have a good night, y'all.
This has been the questionnaire.
Where's the link?
Thanks for checking out the questionnaire.
In the link below, yes?
I will drop it like it's hot.
That's another party.
It's cool, man. I love it.
The questionnaire. That is all.